Love can be a strong emotional bond among family members, so strong that it can sometimes cause incredible things to happen, like this story of Jamie Hicks and a love that transcended life itself. Beth and Jamie Hicks were a mother and daughter team that had had to learn to take care of themselves. Beth's husband died when Jamie was still in grade school, but Beth Hicks had managed to make a life for both of them. Now, with Jamie all but grown, they faced the world together in a happy and healthy way. Jamie grew up believing things would always be this way. In fact, Beth promised Jamie when her father died that she would never leave her alone.
You and I are gonna grow old together. You're not getting rid of me that easily.
I thought so.
But fate would have it otherwise. And despite her promise, a sudden, terminal illness took Beth Hicks away from her beloved daughter.
You promised.
Loneliness seemed to surround Jamie from that moment on. Marriage, a few years later, brought a new joy to her life. But her husband was called to active duty during the Gulf War, and she was alone again when her own baby girl was born. The loneliness was made worse by the fact that her pregnancy and the birth had been complicated and difficult. The one bright spot was her beautiful new daughter.
I'd like to hold her just a little longer.
She really is a beautiful baby. I just wished her father could have been here today.
Yeah, me too.
Jamie had married Jim Wolfe, a radio expert on active reserve in the United States Army. When his unit was called up, Jim had no choice but to leave. For several days after the baby was born, Jamie had tried to get through to Jim's unit, but to no avail.
Do you mind if I turn on the news?
Oh, please.
I mean, I'm sure you want to know what's going on. What with your husband?
Jamie's hospital roommate, Melanie, was also recovering from a complicated pregnancy, so the two had come to be very good friends in a short time. Now, Melanie shared every bit of Jamie's interest in the unfolding events in Saudi Arabia. Jamie knew the name of her husband's unit, and every chance they got, they watched the television news broadcast, hoping to see some sign of where Jamie's husband might be. Occasionally, Melanie's mother and father would stop by to see their daughter. These were difficult moments for Jamie. To her, the warm glow of a happy and complete family was just another reminder of how alone she really was.
Mama, I'm so alone. I wish you could be here right now.
Here is a report just in from Riyadh. According to INS News Service, a missile believed to be one of the Iraqi Scuds just moments ago made a direct hit on a warehouse near Riyadh. The warehouse was being used as barracks for an Army communications unit, the 253rd Signal Battalion, a reserve unit that has only been in the Persian Gulf for a few months. First reports...
The news broadcast filled Jamie with fear. The 253rd was Jim Wolfe's unit.
Army officials are saying there were no survivors. If the report is true, it will be the first time a Scud missile has...
How's 504 been doing? She didn't sleep much. The baby's fine, but that lady's gonna wear herself out.
Repeated attempts to reach Jamie's husband had only produced grim reports that his entire unit had been destroyed. Still, everyone working in the maternity unit closely followed the news from the Persian Gulf. But Jamie heard nothing from her husband, and her fear and anxiety badly slowed her recovery. In fact, Jamie Wolfe's condition grew worse with each passing day.
I wish there was something I could do for Jamie.
Well, I think the best thing for her is if her husband showed up alive.
But for some reason she could not explain, Melanie felt strongly that someone should be watching Jamie closely on this particular night. she decided she would stay awake as long as possible, just in case her friend should need something. As it turned out, this decision would put Melanie in the middle of a miracle. Shortly after midnight, a woman came into the room.
Oh. Hi. Are you looking for Jamie Wolf?
Whoever this mysterious woman was, her deep love and affection for Jamie was immediately apparent. And Melanie could see that just her touch had an instant calming effect on her friend.
That's her little girl. She's beautiful, isn't she?
The woman turned her attention to Melanie. In that instant, Melanie became aware of a voice. Nothing out loud, but a voice nonetheless. And there was no mistaking the message. Despite the strange woman's total silence, Melanie completely understood.
Are you sure? Nurse Drake, there's a woman in here that I want you to meet. I swear.
Just as suddenly as she had come, the mysterious woman disappeared. At that moment, Jamie woke up, refreshed and relaxed for the first time in several days.
Wow, did I sleep well?
You had a visitor.
What?
I can't explain this. And I know it sounds crazy.
Melanie quickly relayed the message the woman had given her. Jamie's husband was alive and well, and on his way home.
Because he's coming home.
Well, who was it?
It was your mother.
My mother died 7 years ago.
At first, Jamie didn't believe what her friend was telling her. But as Melanie described the visitor's appearance, her mannerisms, and the obvious affection she had for Jamie and her baby, Jamie began to realize that somehow it was true. Her mother had visited this hospital room only minutes before. Jamie's condition quickly improved, and by the next day she was ready to return home with her daughter. In her heart, she would always carry the memory of her mother's visit, and that was miracle enough. But she was about to learn that that was only the beginning of her miraculous story.
I wasn't in the barracks when the Scud missile hit. I had gone out in the Jeep when this Arab woman came to me with a hand-drawn map.
After hearing of Jamie's mysterious visitor, Jim couldn't wait to explain exactly how he'd gotten separated from his unit. Jim's unit had been moving from one temporary base of operations to another in order to keep the enemy guessing. It was Jim's job to wrap up the communications gear after everyone else had gone and bring it to the new location. He and a companion had just loaded the last of the radio equipment and were getting ready to pull out, when suddenly a woman appeared out of nowhere and approached the vehicle. She seemed to be in a hurry, and there was something else, something he couldn't quite put his finger on. She told him she had been sent to tell him his unit would be waiting at a new location, and that she'd been sent with a map so he would be sure and find the right place. Ordinarily, he wouldn't have even spoken to a native woman, but there was something about her eyes. She had blue eyes, just like Jamie's. The map the woman gave him had placed him in a deserted part of the city when the Scud missile struck the barracks, and wiped out his entire unit. Blue eyes are almost unheard of in the Middle East. Could those blue eyes that captivated Jim Wolfe and saved his life have belonged to Jamie's mother? Love and family, perhaps the strongest bonds we know of in this life. Is it possible that they're strong enough to transcend even death? Jamie Hicks believes her mother did somehow come to visit them that night. It was a miraculous visit that kept their family together.
After I was told of the sightings of my mother, it gave me a very calm sense of inner peace. I felt complete. I felt like my mother had actually been there. I really do believe that she was. And before Emma was born, I was very sad that her grandmother wouldn't be able to see her. And I'd see other grandmothers getting excited about the birth of their grandchildren. And now I feel that mother really visited Emerald. And I put it in Emerald's baby book that Mama had been there. And I think it's going to mean a lot to her someday when she grows up and she knows that her grandmother cared enough to come by and see her.